Trump bombs Iran's oil hub, the war nobody saw coming last night. Donald Trump dropped a bombshell on Truth Social that sent shockwaves across the entire planet. Moments ago, at my direction, the United States Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Kharg Island. That's the President of the United States announcing in a Truth Social post that America just bombed the single most economically vital piece of land in Iran, a tiny 5-mile island in the Persian Gulf. And the world will never be the same. Stay with me, because what's happening right now is bigger than most people realize. We are 14 days into a war, oil is above $100 a barrel, Qatar is being evacuated, and we're one decision away from the entire global oil supply being cut off. This is the war nobody saw coming, and today it just escalated. How did we get here? To understand what just happened, you need to understand the backstory, because this didn't start last night. Tensions between the United States and Iran stretch back to the Islamic Revolution in 1979. The immediate concerns leading up to the 2026 conflict included Iran's nuclear program, its ballistic missiles, its military reach in the Middle East, and failed attempts to renegotiate a nuclear deal. Then in early 2026, things got very real, very fast. In January 2026, Iranian security forces killed thousands of protesters during the largest protests since the Islamic Revolution. Iran and the U.S. held indirect nuclear negotiations in February, while the U.S. undertook its largest military buildup in the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Talks were happening. Diplomats were talking. And then, shockingly, Oman claimed both sides had agreed to send technical teams to the IAEA's headquarters the following Monday, before strikes commenced on Saturday. That's right. A deal was supposedly within reach. And then Trump pulled the trigger anyway. At exactly 2:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on February 28th, Donald Trump released an 8-minute video on Truth Social saying that the purpose of the U.S. strikes in Iran was effectively regime change. On February 28th, U.S. and Israeli forces launched nearly 900 strikes in 12 hours targeting Iranian missiles, air defenses, military infrastructure, and leadership. The initial wave of strikes killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and dozens of other top Iranian officials. The operation had a name: Operation Epic Fury. The opening phase focused on decapitating senior Iranian leadership while degrading missile infrastructure, launch systems, and air defenses. And within hours, Iran struck back. The war explodes across the region. Iranian retaliation, designated Operation True Promise 4, hit Israel along with several U.S. military targets across the Middle East. Explosions were reported in the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Dubai, and Saudi Arabia. Think about that. Not just Iran being hit, the entire Middle East was under fire simultaneously. Iran launched massive retaliation, expanding the conflict beyond Iranian territory into a region-wide exchange that touched multiple Gulf states and allied military assets. What began as a concentrated campaign against leadership and missile capabilities developed into a sustained regional war. And the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's crude oil and liquefied natural gas normally travels, was effectively brought to a standstill as Iran targeted more than a dozen vessels in an effort to raise oil prices and ramp up pressure on Washington. Oil prices began to spike. Airlines canceled routes. Shipping companies rerouted entire fleets. The global economy started to feel the pressure. Meanwhile, the human cost was staggering. The attacks left enormous damage, more than 2,000 people dead in Iran, Lebanon, and Israel, and hundreds of thousands of travelers stranded across the Middle East. Kharg Island, the nuclear option of oil. Now here's where last night's strike becomes absolutely critical. For nearly 2 weeks, one target had been left completely untouched. One island that everyone knew could end this war in an instant or blow it wide open. Kharg Island. Kharg Island is located roughly 35 miles off Iran's Bushehr province. It's about the size of New York City's Central Park, but it carries enormous importance for Iran's economy. Kharg is Iran's primary oil export terminal. Its processing facilities handle approximately 950 million barrels of crude oil per year. Roughly 90% of Iran's crude oil exports pass through it, most shipped to China and India. This island is Iran's economic lifeline. It's the jugular. And for 13 days, Trump hadn't touched it. The White House had been considering a ground operation to take over the island as one of many options presented by the Pentagon ahead of the war. But analysts warned it was extremely high risk. And then last night, Trump moved. More than 15 explosions were reported on the island, with thick smoke rising after the U.S. targeted Army defenses, the Joshinsea base, an airport control tower, and a helicopter hangar. Trump's warning and what comes next. But here's the part that is keeping world leaders up at night right now. Trump didn't destroy the oil infrastructure. He stopped short, and he made very clear why. It was a message. Trump wrote that he had chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island, but said that if Iran interfered with safe passage of ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, he would immediately reconsider this decision. Translation: this was a warning shot. The next strike could take out Iran's entire oil economy. And Iran responded with its own threat. Tehran warned it would hit regional oil facilities if its own energy infrastructure was attacked. Meanwhile, Brent crude oil futures closed above $100 per barrel for the second straight day, surging more than 40% since the Iran war started. Defense Secretary Hegseth made clear the campaign isn't slowing down. Friday would yet again see the highest volume of strikes that America has put over the skies of Iran and Tehran, ramping up and only up, Hegseth said in a Pentagon briefing. And when asked when it ends, Trump told Fox News the conflict will be over when I feel it. Let's be clear about what's happening here. We are 14 days into a war that started with a 2 a.m. Truth Social post. The supreme leader of Iran is dead. Oil is above $100. Qatar is evacuating. And last night, America struck the island that controls 90% of Iran's oil exports and then dared Tehran to retaliate. This is not a skirmish. This is not a limited operation. This is a reshaping of the Middle East in real time, and the next 72 hours could determine whether the Strait of Hormuz stays open or whether the global economy goes into freefall. If you want to stay on top of this story as it develops, subscribe to this channel right now because this is only getting bigger. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Trump made the right call bombing Kharg Island? Or did he just light a fuse that can't be put out? I'll see you in the next one.